I think sometimes that we don't understand that we have today. I think we have 3 layers of pioneers. 3 layers of pioneers. The major ones are the ones that she was talking about. Then you have the second layer, Imam Mohammed, and you have a 3rd layer now, Deen Mohammed II. Okay, let me explain all of that. What is a Muslim pioneer? And Allah tells us in the Quran, let there arise a nation of people who enjoin what is right and forbid what's wrong. And that, to me, is what our Muslim pioneers represent. The Muslim pioneer is one of the most important and unsung hero you will ever meet. Why? Because of the sacrifices, dedication, and devotion they made to spread dawah in America. It didn't come easy. Just as we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington and remembered what horrible brutality African Americans endured during slavery, the Muslim pioneer means that much to us, and they experienced the same. It was the pioneering Muslims that connected us to our true selves. Not only did they do that for us and made us feel proud proud to be black before James Brown ever came up with "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud." Even in the 30s and 60s, we didn't truly recognize our motherland, Africa, until world-renowned Islamic and African scholar Dr. Suleiman Yang said in one of his speeches that no one was giving acknowledgement and tribute to Africa other than Mohammed Speaks newspaper, now known as Muslim Journal. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad had on the masthead of Mohammed Speaks newspaper an African American brother reaching their hands over the globe. That showed a global connection to one another. We see the lost found African American descendants reaching out to their African brothers. When the call of Allah is God woke us up to the knowledge of self, this began to fulfill us by appreciating and acknowledging our own selves. This knowledge of self showed us who we really were and what self-value and worth we should have, no matter how hard the persecution we suffered. And Imam W.D. Muhammad told us not to worship the color black, but to call ourselves African Americans, and of white people, we should call them Caucasians. Today we are and rightfully so, should be light years ahead of others in social and cultural society, who are now just waking up to where we were in the 50s and the 70s. You can hear them say sometime today, you know the white man is the devil. Well, we've been there, did that, done that. Okay. And it was universal Islam that pulled us away from that era. People are acknowledging Muslim pioneers for their contributions to this country. People are eating healthier by eating less pork, and they are trying to do for self by being independent. Our beloved pioneers suffered as well brutal attacks, killed, spied upon, imprisoned, and attacked. While activists were striving for civil rights, we were striving to say that Allah is God, something that no one else was saying at that time. In 1934, the Michigan State Board of Education disagreed with the Muslims' right to pursue their own educational agenda. And the Muslim teachers and temple secretaries were jailed on the false charge of contributing to the delinquency of minors. In response to the state's denial of the Muslims' right to self-educate their children, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he committed himself to jail after learning what had happened. Eventually, the charges were dropped and the school officials were freed, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad received 6 months probation. His stance on Islamic education remained firm, and the Muslim community continued to resist placing their children under white Christian teachers. In September of that year, he moved to the city of Chicago, where Mr. Farad had already set up the second Islamic community. Even Sister Clara Muhammad, as you see over here, was willing to sacrifice her own life as she stood strong and brave by telling police and school officials, "I will be dead as this doorknob before you take my children and put them into your school." We all know that story. From that stand she took, do you know, that pioneered homeschools. There were a few of some of the Christians or Methodist schools or communities that were homeschooling their children, but not as much as we have today. And that, to me, came from Sister Clara Muhammad. Takbir. In addition to the University of Islam was established. Special pioneers. The sister said pioneer means first, to establish, to inaugurate. And the University of Islam was established, Sister Clara Muhammad Schools, and W.D. Muhammad High School subsequently was pioneered and became realities. Who or what is a pioneer? My definition of a pioneer is one whom God has instilled creativity into their souls. And as they begin to see their purpose, they desire to serve humanity, which makes them all servants of Allah. I also define them as saints, and I ask Allah to grant them the highest place in paradise and to admit them among His righteous servants. Amen. Pioneers such as Marigold Allah, Viola Kareem, Intisar Najib, Sister Clara Venata, Bernstein Muhammad, Brother Albert Kareem, Brother John Hassan, Maggie Sharif, Sister Suzanne, Brother Daniel Alamin, Brother Benjamin and Clara Muhammad, Sheikh James Shabazz, Captain Edward Ali, and so many others are giants among men and women whose shoulders we stand upon today. They paved the way for Islam to become known in America under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. However, persecution of the Muslims continued as members and mosques continued to be attacked by whites in Monroe, Louisiana, Los Angeles, California, and Flint, Michigan, among others. By 1935, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad faced so many challenges, even a death plot arose among a few disgruntled members who wanted the leadership position, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had to take flight, not from fear, but because he wanted to preserve the peace. And many of us know the story where he had to leave here. He went to Washington, D.C., and Brother Benjamin and Sister Clara, he went to their home, and they took care of him there in Washington, D.C. On the May the 8th, 1942, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was arrested in Washington, D.C., allegedly for draft evasion. When the call was made for all males between 18 and 44, he said, "I refused, not evaded, on the grounds that first, I was a Muslim and would not take part in war, and especially not on the side of the infidels." He wrote this as a message to the black man. Second, I was 45 years of age and was not, according to the law, required to register. Many other male members of the Nation of Islam at that time were imprisoned for being conscientious